La nave desapareció tras 16 años de misión.
¿Y quién era el comandante?
Mi padre, señor.
Puede que esto le cause cierta impresión. Su padre estaba experimentando con material de alto secreto que podría poner en peligro nuestro sistema solar y destruir toda forma de vida. Contamos con usted para que descubra qué está pasando.
Me preocupas mucho.
Yeah, we did as much research as we could into space travel and where it's headed. We tried to be as accurate as we could in that regard. For example, the lunar base, how that might function, and that rockets would take off from the moon for deep space travel because lower gravity means less thrust required, that sort of thing. But also what we tried to do was look to the previous 50 or 60 or 70 years of human endeavor and to see what kind of progress had been made since, for example, 1950, and see how the world has changed since then, and apply those changes to what might be. Sometimes the world didn't change at all. You know, we were trying to think, what would people use to write on a spaceship? So right now they use pens called Sharpies. I thought, well, we can't do that. So we looked at 1965, and they were using Sharpies. So we thought, okay, we'll still be using Sharpies. And that was really how we tried to do it. Same thing with even the clothes. How have clothes changed since 1960? Well, fewer people wear hats, but ties and suits are fairly similar, maybe not the same width. So that was really the way we tried to conduct our research. Well, here's an example. So he does these psychological evaluations where they're like monologues, soliloquies really. And they were all scripted. But I would get to the set, I would set up 2 cameras, one medium shot and one close-up, and he would do the first take as scripted, and then the second take would be a little different, and the third would be very different, and the fourth would be extremely strange and great in some other way. And then 12 takes later, you had a huge variety from which to choose. I almost never chose the ones that I had scripted. Always was something more interesting that he would reveal. And I felt that he was very open when we were shooting the film, very willing to be vulnerable. And that's very rare. You know, we're talking about a movie star with a mythology, and for him to expose himself like that was beautiful. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very important. We celebrate aspects of what we might think are bravery or heroism without acknowledging our internal life, our emotional life, which is of critical importance. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes I feel that it's easier to be brave in kind of a military context, a war context, or flying an aircraft. Not that that's easy, but to be vulnerable, to be open, that's kind of rarer in the world. And sometimes the need to preserve that masculine exterior is dangerous. So we wanted to explore in a way the character's weakness, his inability to open up. I've been talking about that lately. Very similar, very similar. It's interesting because the public personae are different. They don't look the same. I'm not even sure the acting style in the movie itself seems the same, but to work with them is incredibly similar. They both are probing, ask you a lot of questions. They want a dialogue. They are not afraid to ask for help. Oftentimes, they don't need any help. Both extremely intelligent, and both, like I said, open to the moment and willing and want to give you what they have. They're very similar. No, I didn't know anything about Disney acquiring Fox while I was making the film. I mean, that happened while I was in the middle of editing, and it was a complete surprise to me. You know, sometimes there are forces in the world way beyond anything that you can control or that you even want to control. Disney has been wonderful to me with regards to the film. And you're quite right, Disney doesn't make these movies, but they've been great to me and said, we didn't make these movies, which is why we want this movie, because they wanted to make a broader slate. So I don't really have an answer to your question because it's like over my head, you know? Well, the honest answer is I have no idea. If you had told me when I was at the University of Southern California studying cinema what would happen to the movie business 20 years after I'd graduated, I would never have believed it. It's been so different, and it keeps changing, and the ground is shifting under our feet. So the short answer is I don't know. The more honest answer is that I can't think about it. I can only do the best work that I can because I'm not in a position to change the movie business. I'm only in the position to do the best work that I can. The rest is over my head.
La tierra confió en él. Ahora confía en su destino. En mí.
Tenemos un trabajo. ¿Estás preparado?
Lo estoy.